Welcome to your Bastion Warrior Masterclass Guide. I'll be your host JB, and in today's video I'll be explaining exactly how to get the most out of this class. This is a continuation of my Masterclass series tailored towards getting new players through the entire main story of the game, in the hopes of aiding you on your adventure throughout Mira. As always, no endgame builds will be discussed throughout the duration of this video, so please check back on the channel later once those endgame guides have been uploaded. As always, if you enjoy this content and find it useful, please consider hitting that subscribe button and notification bell, as it's free and it helps me out a ton. With all that out of the way, let's get right into the guide. The Bastion Warrior class consists of both the Gatling gun and shield weapons, and along with Duelist, is designed as one of the easier classes to get to grips with. The class functions similarly to the classic Xenoblade tanks, possessing a ton of great defensive effects via shield and strong DPS potential due to the Gatling. The class greatly increases both your maximum HP and melee attack stats, but at the cost of reducing your potential output, overall limiting your healing and TP art damage. Additionally, whilst unlike Duelist, the Bastion Warrior does possess 4 skill slots, but the majority of them are once again tailored for defensive purposes, limiting your overall effectiveness in a game designed with ooga booga big damage numbers in mind. Even so, the Bastion Warrior class more than has the tools to make up for it, providing a great selection of both party-wide support and strong multi-hit damage, making this an excellent build for any who want to charge straight at the enemy and come out of it relatively unscathed, while still being a class and weapon combination that just keeps getting better once you move over to a different class tree, as that is ultimately Bastion Warrior's weakest link, holding it back. Your primary weapon for this build will be the Gatling gun, as its strong selection of multi-hit arts and ease of building up the overdrive counter make it an essential strong tool for us to take advantage of. In total, the Gatling gun possesses only 9 different arts, the majority of which are all yellow range stars, but the few supporting buffs and auras that it does possess do help make up for this limitation. In addition, once again, this weapon can be found in any and all attributes, and largely has the freedom to go down any of them, due to most arts using the weapon attribute for its damage type. That said, what they make up for with sheer damage output with their arts, they lack in their auto attack capabilities, as they have overall one of the lowest TP generation rates in the entire game, and suffer from incredibly long cooldowns between auto attacks. This of course leans into the fact that you want to get this weapon type into overdrive and spamming arts as quickly as possible, subsiding this entire weakness and aspect of the weapon type in the first place. Overall, whilst there are specific attributes for the endgame I would recommend, for the purposes of this build and newcomers to the series, there really isn't any need to limit yourself, granting you the player the most amount of freedom possible when selecting which Gatling gun you want equipped. In contrast, the shield weapon was almost entirely designed for the purpose of supporting a ranged weapon, and is the best defensive option in the entire game, as the name would suggest. It possesses 13 different arts which are largely designed to buff up and support your party, and those arts that aren't, like Bombardier or Wild Down, provide alternative forms of support through things like Topple and Blaze. Surprisingly, this melee weapon also has the potential to come in any attribute, but sadly, you typically won't be able to take advantage of this, as its offensive arts aren't typically used, and those that are locked to specific attributes. That said, shields have a respectable TP generation output, slightly lacking from what we discussed with the longsword previously, and compared with the Gatling gun, the difference is night and day. Similarly, there isn't a specific attribute I would attach to the shield class, but the weapon does already possess a few thermal arts, so I'd likely avoid that specific attribute to gain some more diversity. Onto the loadout, and for the most part, this build aims to streamline this class's strengths whilst offsetting their weaknesses, providing strong party-wide support and a consistent, easy way to get the overdrive counter to max as quickly as possible. Unlike Duelist, which had multiple standout arts that you'd want equipped, Bastion Warrior only really has one consistent home hitter, which is Cool Off, a green buff art which removes all debuffs applied to yourself, and if an aura is active, refunds 2000 TP at max level whilst ending its effect. You may notice that this in essence is another last stand situation, just with extra steps, as the inclusion of quick recast will allow you to reactivate your aura and use cool off once again in quick succession, granting endless TP until your supply runs dry. As for which aura to pair with this strategy, the choice is largely up to you. I personally prefer running Enhanced Stand, as it provides this class with a way to heal outside of Soul Voices, making up for this class's reduced potential stat, but you could easily alternatively run either Super Shield or Iron Prison, both of which also provide defensive utility and in some situations will likely be superior to Enhanced Stand in the first place. Next up, to keep Overdrive going, will require both spammable green arts to extend the timer and purple arts to regain TP, the best options of which include Reality Rift, Flame Cloak, and Shield Wall. Reality Rift is incredible, inflicting slow arts on the enemy to passively reduce their damage output, and the fact it hits AoE in front of you can be a game changer in fights against multiple enemies, as TP will be restored for each enemy hit, offsetting its weakness of only having one hit ordinarily. Shield Wall grants barrier to the entire team, which is a great defensive option and increases your entire party's survivability, your own especially due to the power of this effect scaling with your maximum HP, which is increased with this class. That leaves Flame Cloak, which, whilst looking very situational, can be used to great effect due to its comparatively short cooldown, making it an excellent ability to repeatedly activate to extend the overdrive timer and protect the party from any thermal damage that may be incoming. For your final three arts, we want to end up with our primary DPS option, both to increase the counter and quickly slay the enemy, the best of which are Hellfire, Bulletstorm, and Missile Volley. All of these arts have a ton of hits, the minimum being 6 with Missile Volley in this case, and can be incredibly powerful when paired up back to back. Bulletstorm has the highest hit count for your Gatling gun arts, so this will be our main source of raising the counter, and Hellfire will be our main DPS output, scaling off of potential and doing a ton of damage once the build is set up. Alternatively, you can swap some of these arts around slightly for things like Fire Carnivore, Bullet Twister, and Mindstorm, providing alternative sources of great damage output and support arts, but all of these will require you to go out of your way to complete different characters' affinity missions. And for the purpose of this guide being for new players who won't necessarily want to sink their teeth into all of that for right now, I won't be using them for today's build, but feel free to pick them up if you're so inclined. In terms of skills, Machine Gunner is an absolute must. It won't activate during every boss fight and such, but when it does, you will surely feel it, and makes mowing down rows of enemies all the more easier. As for the remaining skills, whilst Bastion Warrior does actually have some really good skills, especially for the end game, they don't really get the opportunity to shine here. But for this specific use case, I would recommend Steel Flesh to increase your HP higher and make your barrier all the stronger, Shield Screen, reducing your damage taken whilst ever performing any one of your shield arts, or simply building TP initially, and Stand Strong, a situational skill for sure, but one that absolutely can come in clutch when you least expect it. Eventually, you may want to consider swapping some of these out for other better skills you unlock from the other classes, but again, for the purpose of today's guide, this will be effective enough as is. Now on to gear, and largely it's the same situation as the previous video. The outright best piece of equipment you can get is an eye patch, the earliest of which is unlocked by completing Satie's initial quest during chapter 3, due to it giving you access to Appendage Crusher. Appendage Crusher works the same as I described in my Duelist video. Effectively, each appendage possesses a hardness tier ranging from -5 to +5, with 0 being the neutral middle ground, and what Appendage Crusher does is lower the enemy appendage hardness tier by 1. This is why stacking it can be so useful and can lead to as much as 250% more damage through just these effects alone. Additionally, I also recommend once again equipping Gear on Augments with the TP up trait, as this time around it especially pays to have at least 4000 TP when going into battle. The Cool Off Quick Recast exploit does exist, but that's a really good way to quickly use all your Quick Recast ability, and the extra 1000 1000 TP will really save you some time in the long run. I'll also recommend running any form of weapons or gear that come with either potential up or ranged accuracy up traits, as unlike the duelist guide, we don't have a consistent way to raise our accuracy up, meaning that for higher level enemies, we may run into issues with keeping the counter high, so this should also be a priority when selecting your gear. On to today's demonstration. I'll be using Lynn for this footage as she can run the exact same build, so this guide can also kind of act like a video for her as well. Anyways, I've removed all of my custom avatar's art and equipment, so all of the damage and such you're about to see is entirely driven from myself. Jumping right into it, I like to start all of my overdrives with this class by immediately using my aura and cancelling it into cool off, which gives me an instant 2000 TP towards my next overdrive, and due to this being a green art, it then provides the perfect segue to build up the counter with Bulletstorm, making use of the double overdrive count bonus once again. That said, you may not even need to reactivate the overdrive counter anyway, as this is one of those builds where you're spamming so many green and blue arts that you can extend the overdrive timer naturally without even using your TP. Even so, for the purpose of new players, I would still aim to extend it for now and get as much extra time as possible. Once you've built up the counter a decent bit, which shouldn't be too hard to do considering all of the Gatling gun's multi-hit arts, you should start weaving in Reality Rift to begin regaining some TP. Aside from your aura and cool off, this is your only other source of TP, and as such, being left with under 1000 TP when your aura isn't active is a quick way to run straight into a wall. Not that it can't be bulldozed through though. To be completely honest, I'd argue that this build is actually even easier to run than Duelist, as you're fairly capable of staying safe with shield wall and you have more options on being able to keep overdrive going if it comes down to it. The downside, however, compared to that build is we don't produce anywhere near as much damage due to lacking an aura or our own buff effect to increase our damage, but admittedly this is something we can rely on the AI for. Running Lao with a sniper who has Eagle Eye is a great example, as that's a party-wide ranged attack up and ranged accuracy up buff and pairs beautifully with this build so far, and aside from this, there's not much more to say. Yeah, this is a fairly straightforward one. Just take advantage of going from a green into a yellow art to build the counter, spam green arts if you feel you're running out of time on the overdrive counter, use your purple Reality Rift to regain TP and fund your aura and TP art, and spam your yellow arts for the damage. You may notice again if we focus on the art palette that I've once again set this up in such a way where I can just simply scroll through my arts one after another, and in this case I'm making use of the increased appendage damage bonus by going purple into yellow. And that's pretty much it for your masterclass guide on how to play and build the Bastion Warrior class. As always, I hope you found this guide useful and that it aids in your adventure throughout Mira. If it has, I'd once again appreciate it if you'd consider clicking that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future guides within the masterclass series and all of the other exciting Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition content that I plan on bringing you all very soon. I thank you all for watching though, and I'll catch you in the next one. Till next time, guys.